All right, Tommy, we're back.
What's up?
We're back, podcast number 3. And now, if you're seeing this on the video and not just listening to it on audio on Buzzsprout, Tommy is in outer space with me. Before, I was in outer space by myself. He was in the Aurora Borealis from maybe Earth's point of view or not. Now he has joined me in the cosmos, and you can see the globe behind me, the Earth. I do not live on Earth. I'm not going to say if I live on the moon or Venus, but let's just say it's a nice piece of real estate.
I'm aroused now, too. I understand what you meant in the first podcast.
I was totally joking about this.
Oh, this is something else, man.
It was something else. But I'm so reinvigorated about space exploration. And because I was as a child, I got it from my father because of Elon Musk. He sent up some astronauts earlier this summer, and there was a number of precedents that trip. But it was not the least of which is commercial space exploration, which is so exciting, which is totally empowering space exploration like it hasn't been in a long time. And indeed, lunar colonies and even Martian colonies, which is Elon Musk's goal, and that is the man to do it.
Mars, yes.
It's so, man, inspirational, man. I have very lofty goals, and they weren't always that way. But once you start on something and then you really focus on it and really work at it, you can see other goals develop from it peripherally or even more advanced. And I think that the stuff that I'm working on is going to be very rewarding. So I have goals of like going to the International Space Center and going when they have a lunar colony, going visit the lunar colony and go to the moon. How cool would it be to go to the moon in reality?
I mean, they say, oh, that's out of this world. It's literally out of this world. You know?
So I've got some big goals now, man. And I've always had big goals, but never this big.
That's...
A primary reason is, for that, quite frankly, is, I've created this virtual coaching program called Proficio, which is going to be released very soon. And that can so revolutionize the world that I might be highly, highly rewarded financially and otherwise. And if that happens, which I certainly hope it does, if I empower millions of people to make their dreams come true, then, I'll be rewarded. And there's so many things that I'd like to do, including like things like visit the moon, or even things before that, like go to orbit, and just how cool would that be? Well,
stratosphere.
Well, right now you and I are, if you're watching the video here on YouTube and not just listening to the audio, you can see Tommy and I are out in the cosmos, and it's very cool.
Yeah,
so
love it here.
I congratulate us for making it to podcast number 3. And I see that we began making traction, and that is so heartening, so encouraging. It's very cool. We were doing Facebook Live. We're still doing that, and we're kind of altering it. We're making those shorter. We're focusing more on the podcast now. I think that's the new thing that we're going to do. But this is different, though related, and it's starting to take off, and that's awesome. The first thing I want to talk about is on a Facebook Live about a week or two ago, someone said that the things didn't make sense to them. People didn't make sense to them. You're using it in a political context. And I talked about it, but I told them there was one key, that I wasn't going to give then. I was going to save it for a podcast. Well, here we are now, and I'll give the key.
Right.
Now, it's one of the most basic needs that we all have is for the world to make sense to us. We all need that desperately. When the world doesn't make sense to us, all sorts of things can happen. You could actually even go insane when the world is totally nonsense to you chronically. But things make sense because of our logic, all right? We have, that happens, and that means that. Okay, all right, I understand that. Now you construct the belief primarily from our parents, but from your environment, right? You construct all your beliefs. All beliefs are constructs, whatever they are.
Yep.
Ones that are true and ones that are false. It doesn't matter to us as the believer. We believe them all the same as if the false ones were true. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We just believe them. What we believe, we believe. It has nothing to do if they are true or not. That's the human deal. I mean, some will be true and some will not. So, and that's how we make sense. We make sense through our beliefs, all right? Okay, everything makes sense to us because I believe it. Now, when a group of people act in a way that doesn't make sense to us, or if things happen that don't make sense to us, what is going on? Is it that typically, depending on a person's level of evolution and enlightenment and development, they'll blame the party that doesn't make sense, or they'll find some party to blame when it's a thing that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Even though they may not be related to the situation, they just need to find someone to blame, to be at fault for something not making sense, right? It's that group, it's that person, right? They're the ones, they must be bad or something negative for such a nonsensical thing to happen, right?
Yeah.
So they find the scapegoat, they find the bad guy, a culprit, in order for nonsense to make sense to them. All right, now nonsense makes sense to me because I have a bad guy, I have a culprit. I can have a breath of relief that the world makes sense and that you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
You see, so they make a bad guy. They must make a bad guy because of that level of development they are. But is that the truth? No, it's not the truth. You know, everyone is bad, everyone is good, everyone is right, everyone is wrong. All right.
Yeah.
You just because you make someone a bad guy doesn't make it true.
The dark to your light.
It was just your way of making nonsense into making sense out of not of what you called nonsense. Now, so what's the problem in such a situation where things don't make sense? Well, the problem is actually very, very simple, right? Things make sense to us, right? Using our logic, using our belief system, because we're having right thinking. Things make right, we're thinking rightly, so things flow, all right? And we have a flow of things, right? Of logic, of reality. What happens is when a person starts thinking wrongly, all right, then things stop making sense, right? Oh, wait a second. I don't understand that a group would act that way. They must be bad. They must be bad. Not that I could be thinking wrong. I could be thinking the wrong things. No. I can't take what's going on. Well, a person's refusing to take responsibility for their own thoughts, right?
Yeah.
They're saying that, how can I possibly be flawed or think incorrectly? You must be bad. You must be bad. You must be stupid. You must be a moron. You must be a retard. Whatever it is, anything but take responsibility for your own thoughts. Understand, of course, primarily is that everything, we perceive reality with our own thoughts. No one lives in reality. Yes, there is a one reality. Hey, that's related to our name of our podcast, One Truth. But we all perceive it subjectively. It's all an individual adventure going to the same reality with our own report cards about the whole thing, our own stories about what happens, yay, nay, or indifferent. So when something doesn't make sense to us, it's because we're finding fault in others rather than finding fault in our own thinking. So, so the real solution is not to vilify others, but to correct our own thinking. That's the real solution. So quite simply, the how to make sense is change your thinking until things make sense without vilifying people. I mean, even like Now I've used previously. I used a extreme example of a political example of Nazis and communists, and I'll do the same here because it's a good example in terms of the extremity, and it's very easy to understand because of that extreme part of it. It's like, look at how, of course everyone can agree that Nazis were bad, all right, and Nazism is a terrible ideology. Ironically, not as many people agree about that about communism, even though communism has actually killed many, many more people than Nazism. But I'm not going to get into the politics of that. That's not what this podcast is about. But I am going to point out is that the Nazis were people. And even the non-Nazi Germans, of course, they were people too. Communists, same thing. Everyone, all of us were people. We're all both half good and half bad. All right.
Right.
It's the old ancient Indian law. The old ancient Indian told his grandson about the two wolves.
The wolf.
Right.
Right.
The two wolves, the black wolf and the white wolf. And the grandson that each person has such a wolf, and one is the bad one is the good one. And the grandson says to grandfather, well, which one is the stronger one? He said, well, that's the one that you feed the most. Okay, the black wolf or the white wolf. And this, it's one of the, of course, we're not talking about people, we're talking about wolves and just the color of them. But one of the reasons why a primary reason why I don't like using terms of color for people, black and white, because black and white have other definitions and implications of positive and negative that you should not attribute to people. A black person, you have the other definition, there's other implications of darkness and sinister. Who needs that? Who wants that? I'm a black person. I have another definition of black that there's nefariousness. It was a terrible, whoever came up with this system of calling people by their color, they should be, their graves should be, desecrated. It's so awful. And that's part of the problem with races, but we're not getting into that either. Okay. Where was I, Tommy? Bring me back.
Well, we're at about 15, almost 15 minutes, and we were talking about the wolves, the two wolves that you feed.
All right, I already got past the wolves. About making sense. All right, now making sense. All beliefs are constructs. All right, and so people are people, and certainly there's such a thing as evil exists, which is evil. I would regard evil as not having mercy, having a total self-righteousness, having a total malice. Well, malice is I think a lesser form of evil, because anyone can have malice, which is like a negative intention. But then if you could change your mind about your malice, oh, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't have some malice. That's great. But when you're so self-righteous to believe is that, that you can't do wrong, that then you can do anything. You can justify anything. Humans justify anything when they are very self-righteous, right?
Self-righteousness is terrible. Well, it can be. It is.
No, self-righteousness is the thing that everyone needs to avoid. Everyone needs to avoid. We all want to be right, absolutely. But when we become self-righteous, then we can't be corrected. Who can correct us? You can even correct yourself. Who can correct you when you're wrong if you're self-righteous, right? Even if I'm self-righteous, and the thing I was self-righteous about, if I considered that I was wrong about it, I would say, wait a second, how could I be wrong when I was right? I was really, I'm right. I can't be wrong. You can't justify it. Maybe if you can think that you were wrong, and now that you're right that you were wrong, okay, then it would be useful. But what happens more often in self-righteousness is a person is so invested in their self-righteousness that they cannot deviate from it. They can't come back from it. They're too committed that this was it. Because if they change, if they had a reconsideration or a change of heart or an enlightenment or a new discovery, they would have to admit that they were wrong.
Right.
they're
And they can't sit
self-righteous.
in those feelings. They can't sit with those feelings when they step down and they say, you know what? I was wrong. That's too much for them.
That's good. That's called humility, right? The
Yeah.
humility is really just an acknowledgement of being a human, you know.
Well, it gets misconstrued with cowardice. I think that's why so many people shun from it. They're like, oh, well, if I'm not standing up to what I believe, then I must be a coward. But no, sometimes you need to be humble. You need to practice humility. And if a person is right, then you need to acknowledge that and say, you know what, you're right. I was wrong.
Well, yeah, and we all want to be right, and we don't want to be wrong. All of us. It's completely natural. If not,
Right.
it's instilled in us through our civilization. But getting to the point of making sense is that when we vilify people in order for things to make sense, all that is our inability to take responsibility for our own thinking. All right. When that happens, when you start vilifying people, you know, that they're bad or they're stupid so that things can make sense to you, what I would suggest that you do is you stop doing that, and stop dividing everybody in terms of the ones that agree with you and the ones who don't. And you say, well, how can I think about this in such a way where those people are not bad or stupid, where I can allow them their perspective and I can have my perspective. You don't have to change your perspective in terms of your morality or your position, but to give people the leeway of being human like you are, right? That people are fallible and have their own morality, have their own ideas of right and wrong, you know, and they're different like you're different. And the way you do that, quite frankly, is by having wisdom. People who don't have wisdom can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't do it. They're just locked in their own perspective, and they've got to make you bad or make you stupid in order for the world to make sense. They have no wisdom at all. And you simply, I think we've talked about it in this podcast already. You get wisdom by seeing things from other perspectives, see things from those people's perspectives. That is to say, not that you float over and be you from their shoes. You go over and be them from their shoes.
Yeah.
All right. Look at it from the third position, a fly on the wall. What about both of you in the same picture? All right. This is a recurring topic of wisdom because it's so important to see. I mean, I'm espousing wisdom. To see things from multiple perspectives, see things from a systemic perspective. What's the system involved here? A political one, a social one, a communal one, a commercial one, whatever, doesn't matter. See things from that perspective, and see things finally from God's perspective, the omniscient perspective, one that loves you all equally and doesn't condemn any of you. Imagine that. Imagine there's no condemnation for anyone. Right? So going into deliberately seeing things through wisdom will make sense of everything practically instantly. All right. And there's no need to vilify anybody, and you can allow them. All right. And that, again, I've already covered that evil does exist. If someone is so self-righteous and so merciless, they're at the cusp of being evil. All right. And they're at the very cusp of it because they'll justify anything can be justified. And you've got to be able to account for yourself and change your behavior if need be, you know, and say that I'm wrong if need be. Because if you can't do that, then you can do anything and you can be led anywhere. Again, going back to the examples of the Nazis and the communists. All right.
Yeah.
All right. It's a good example.
Amazing.
It's extreme. Okay. Very good. How are we doing on time, Thomas?
We're about at 19 minutes.
Great. And now I'll also talk about one other point. You know, this is our third podcast, and I saw that on Facebook, on the Facebook page. There was some criticism. Someone said this is gibberish or something. I think it was an English guy. And so I welcome all feedback, negative or positive, truly. And I thank this guy. I truly thank him. But I asked him, I always want to improve. The proper response to any feedback is always thank you. Always.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to improve this naturally. So I asked him, well, what did you think was, you know, not good? Or I was very precise and elegant. You know, what did you think was stupid about it or something like that? I can't remember what he said. He never replied. And that suggests to me that he just wanted to criticize. He was a critic and he wanted to criticize. He didn't have an answer. When I was looking for real information that might be useful, he had none to give. At least he didn't. At least if he saw it, he didn't respond. He never responded, and I gave him some time. So what about that? Well, criticism is an awesome thing. Yeah, we always want feedback, and you want positive feedback because that feels good and helps you, let you know you're on track. You want negative feedback because that you can improve it. You know, if this guy gave me something that was useful, I could improve it. I could make it better for people like him. Right?
Thanks for your opinion.
If I decided so, I would weigh it out. But those are very precise feedbacks. But what about feedback that this guy gave, which was just a negative criticism? That's awesome too. As I was telling Tommy earlier, all criticism is an awesome thing because that they are almost always, not all the time, but they are markers of success. Because we're doing this thing, Tommy and I, this podcast, and this person came across it and said, ah! That lets us know that we're doing something, right? If we weren't doing something, that guy wouldn't have the to me and him. He probably would have done it elsewhere. We don't know. Maybe he would have, but he would have, maybe he wouldn't. But we did it, and he did it to us. And that lets us know that we're doing something. We're doing something. Maybe we are shit, okay? But at least we're doing something. Well, Tommy and I are punk rockers. We love Mayan Thread. Was a great Mayan Thread song says, at least I'm fucking trying. He's trying to do something. And that was by Ian MacKay, who was an awesome punk rock singer and lyricist and frontman. But don't ever be put off by criticism. Welcome it. Even if it's not legitimate criticism, it's a marker of success. You're doing something. All right. To avoid criticism, do nothing. No one has nothing to criticize. No one will criticize you at all except for your parents. Right? Do something. Right? But no one else, because there's nothing to criticize. We're doing something.
You're not putting anything out there.
That's great. And so I thank that Englishman. I thank anyone. All right. But I really prefer ones that are useful, but all is welcome. So very good. Thanks for criticism. Okay, let's get to it. How we doing on time, Tommy?
We got, I think we're at like 22 minutes.
Okay, great. So now it's time for the daily passage of Achieve Your Success. This is a different one from the morning Facebook Live. This is actually the 1999 one. Achieve Your Dreams Motivational Calendar. All right. You see it's a really cool picture on. All right. I'm selecting a passage from it. Very cool. Bicyclist.
That's a perfect, you can see it. Usually we're having problems with the screen, but that's good.
Okay. Very good. All right. Very good. Now, what's the passage here? Every day is a gift. Treat it kindly. Share it with joy.
Every new day.
Think about it. If I died today, or if you died.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the world will be a lot better off if you died than if I died.
Thank you, God. Release me.
Right. Well, that's the one good thing about death. If you're suffering, it's a relief, right? But other than that, listen, life is ups and downs. That's what life is.
Absolutely.
And problems are good. Let you know you're alive. It's good to be alive. When we complain and we get sad or depressed, it's like, oh God, my life sucks. So why can't things be better? Yeah, okay, but at least we're alive to have the experience, and things can change. Guess what? Things do change. They always do. Things always change. I had this conversation just the other day about change.
Change is the best.
Change is the perpetual thing of life. It's perpetual.
It's the only
change.
certainty.
It's
Nothing
always
is
going
certain
on.
besides change.
What confuses us is that there's two kinds of changes basically going on, and it confuses people. There's the change that happens rapidly, even instantly, right? And that they can be readily seen. Oh, that's a quick change. But then there's the other change that happens slowly. And the extreme example of that is like geological change, which rocks that take millions of years. All right. Now you don't have to go to that extreme example. Go back to just the change of like where you've lived, maybe 40 years. That's a slow change, maybe, or whatever. Fast change and slow change are going on simultaneously. And we get confused. We could think that things don't change by looking at the things that are changing slowly. And we could get, if we look at the things that are changing quickly, we go, oh my God, everything's changing so fast. How can I deal?
Yeah.
You're looking at things wrongly again, right?
Yeah.
Know that they're both going on simultaneously, and there's change that you can affect. And the change that you affect greatly increases the changing your way, the way that you want it to change. They're both going to go on with or without you. But if you put your influence into it more effectively, the better, the more it'll go your way. Not guaranteed, but the more influence will come to bear on these two perpetual things,
Right.
which is change, slow and fast.
You know what's a sign of someone who's witnessed slow change is when somebody says, wow, where has the time gone? Or, you know, they look at this town and they say, oh, when did that happen? You know what I mean? Or this city, and they go like, I don't remember that. And it's
That's
like,
right. Our language leaves clues. Now, I'm a practitioner
yeah.
of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is linguistic, right? I pay a lot of attention to language because they are very revealing. And it's all good, you know, but change is always going on, and it's a great gift because in this thing with constant change, slow and fast, all sorts of things can be made to happen, and most importantly, experienced, right? We can experience kindness and receiving it and giving it. I tell you, I've got 6 cats. 2 are ferals, one's a stray. The 2 ferals don't let me touch them. And these are like my children. I call them my cat children. And just being kind to them and watching them being kind to me or kind to each other is just a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Right. But just experiencing kindness, you know, what this passage is about, treat it kindly. That's, man, kindness really kind of makes life, right? Isn't life so much better with kindness?
It is. Cruelty is damaging and just wrong.
Sometimes it's fun though, but yeah. What's my old saying that I said in my early, you know, I'm a recovered drug addict. In my early recovery, I used to say and I still believe it, there's nothing as fun as doing the wrong thing, but there's absolutely no replacement to doing the right thing.
Right.
So cruelty can be fun.
Yeah.
I'm anti-cruelty. I do not like cruelty. I despise cruelty. But, you know, when someone's being an arrogant prick, all right, they're kind of opening themselves for maybe a cruel retaliation.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the way I rationalize that. I bet you Jesus wouldn't rationalize it that way, but I ain't Jesus. Not yet, anyway. Yeah. And to share it with joy. Share it with joy, man. Joy is the thing. If you're not having enough joy in life, make that a goal, because that is that's something that we all probably are impoverished with. We have all sorts of feelings and things going on. Joy is the one thing that we probably would like to have more of if we could choose it, and we can have those feelings if we decide to go after them.
Joy and happiness definitely they get misconstrued with pleasure and other things.
I love it. Okay, so as is my ritual, I will burn this paper passage so you can symbolically burn it into your mind. Every day is a gift. Treat it kindly. Share it with joy. I'm burning it and then putting it into the tin. I love my tin, man. This is great. I just garage fee. Actually, I was on my first boat, which was a 23-foot kitty wake, 1967. And this was on it, and I took it off when that boat sunk. and then I went on to my other boat, my 27-foot Coronado, 1973. And then there was no place for it. I put it on the dock box. And now I took it from the dock box and put it into my garage. And now just last week, I'm like, I need a new receptacle for this the paper burnings. And now I made it here. So there's the journey. And
Is that Spasmo? Spasmo is the 72?
Is the 1973, right? Spasmo.
Oh.
It was named after my cat who was hit by a car.
Yeah.
It was an indoor-outdoor cat, and it was killed by a car. And now I don't allow that anymore. Matter of fact, I save cats. I talked about that. I have 2 feral cats. I saved them because save them from the death machines known as cars and trucks. And a stray cat too. Well, I don't get these cats all come from my backyard. Literally, that's where they come from. And
they know where it's at.
I said, those are God, my stray cat is named Ducitor, which is Latin. It means led by God. This cat appeared in my backyard crying, pleading for her own life. And so I saved her and took her to the vet. The vet said, this cat's a goner. Comfort her before she dies. Well, the cat had a complete recovery, and now she's my little buddy.
Thank God.
Anything is true. Anything is possible through faith. All right.
Absolutely.
Tommy, my man, talking about faith and God. That sets up Tommy with his Taoist instruction. Taoist. It's pronounced Taoist. It's spelled Tao, but it's pronounced
Tao.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry, go on.
Each passage will represent the podcast that we do, and today we're on the 3rd passage of the Tao Te Ching.
Tao Te Ching, man. I love this. This is great, this segment. Hit it, Tommy.
This is number 3. By not exalting the talented, you will cause the people to cease from rivalry.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Repeat that so I can focus on your words. I want to hear you.
By not exalting the talented, you will cause the people to cease from rivalry and contention. By not prizing goods hard to get, you will cause the people to cease from robbing and stealing. By not displaying what is desirable, you will cause the people's hearts to remain undisturbed. Therefore, the sage's way of governing begins by emptying the heart of desires, filling the belly with food, weakening the ambitions, toughening the bones. In this way, he will cause the people to remain without knowledge and without desire, and prevent the knowing ones from any ado. Practice non-ado, and everything will be in order. Huh.
Wow. Can you repeat that whole thing, please? Because I need to. That's a lot. I need to digest that.
It is a lot.
Yeah. So hit it again, please. And maybe let's break it down as we go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. By not exalting the talented, you will cause the people to cease from rivalry and contention.
Okay, stop. Okay. Yeah. By not exalting, which is praise. This is why. Not the talented. You'll do something good, right? Is that okay? And the good is what? What's the good?
The good will be that you will stop everyone from, I guess, reckless rivals and competitions.
I love it. And that is wonderful. And that totally makes sense to me. And it has a lot to do with, how I feel about organized religion. Well, it has a relation to how I feel about organized religion, which I'm against organized religion. Well, I'm not against it generally, just for me. Yeah. Is that because when people praise God, and a lot of people praise God, hey, that's their thing, that's fine. But the way I see it is when someone praises God, sooner or later, they're trying to get me to praise God too. Right? Yeah. That's my big problem with praising God. And my God, and the way I see God, the last thing God needs is your praise, my praise. He, she, they, it is so way beyond having anything to do with praise, like praise. So save that for the people who need it, for your narcissists, for your insecure people. God doesn't need praise. Okay, I'm sorry if that upsets your belief system. I just shared that.
Yeah.
And that has to do though. Okay, now we're talking about a deity, but now Lao Tzu, which is the author of those words he read, he's talking about a deity. He's talking about talented people, but it's the same thing, sort of. It's very similar. Is that when I like this person because they're so talented, and you like this person, we could be in a competition.
Yeah, He's
right?
it's like don't like any awards. It's almost like he's denouncing trophies and awards and things like that. It's funny.
I appreciate that. Now,
Yeah.
on one hand, I think competition is great. On the other hand, I think it sucks. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because you get into this rivalry in or these conflicts that are so unnecessary. Some people get off on it and they can be exploited or capitalized on. But
Of
I think more
course.
often than not, or very often, that they take up energy that can be better used.
I believe this was written at a time also when Asia was going through it was a warring continent. There was a lot of rivalries and fighting and colonialism, I guess you'd say, of certain parts.
Yeah.
It was written at a very primitive and more savage time. So
It was like 500 AD. This was written.
I'm not even sure. I'm gonna have to look that up,
Okay,
and
look
I'll
that
let you
up.
know in the next podcast.
Okay, continue with the reading, please. We'll break it down.
By not prizing goods hard to get, you will cause the
Okay,
people
stop.
to see.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Whenever a writer uses a negative, a force, or double negative, my mind has to go into like overdrive. So okay,
Yeah.
so just read the first clause again.
Wait, the very beginning?
No, the one you just read.
Okay. By not prizing goods hard to get.
Not prizing. Okay,
Yep.
so there's prizing goods hard to get.
Yeah.
By not doing that. Okay, so you're not so you're not prizing. So there's no prizing. There's just coolness. All right, go on.
Yep. Okay. By not prizing goods hard to get, you will cause the people to cease from robbing and stealing.
Okay, so by having your vanity or your possessions, right?
Yeah.
Especially your hard to get ones, the more rare, the more expensive.
Your designer clothes, your cars,
whatever. The people who are the thieves, there'll be less thieving. There'll be less stealing, because people will be less envious, right?
Absolutely.
Right, and less jealous, right? Because they have less than what you have. Now, I'm a capitalist, but I'm down with this, man, because I think I'm also a spiritualist, right?
Yeah.
So I'm down with this. This resonates with me. I think that, but the pivotal part here is I think that absolutely everyone should make as much money and make as much wealth as they can and do what they want to do with it. Ideally, put it to good use. But that's their prerogative. But I think the critical thing here is what did you say? What's the first part of that reading there?
By not prizing goods hard to get.
Prizing, that's it.
Prizing.
That's the operative word. That's the verb.
Yeah.
Prizing. Don't you see my great new car? You see how great it is? I wash it every day. I wash my car once a year, quite frankly.
Yeah.
and that's only when it's on a bad year. Some people are gonna put that, so they're prizing it. It's almost like they're gloating or
trophy.
They're just really being vain and perhaps narcissistic, really showing it off. That's the operative thing. Because you can have stuff. Hey, mister, be free. With freedom, that means you do what you want. Absolutely. But this stuff is base shit, This comes not from your higher self, but your lower self.
Yeah.
Prizing vain stuff, showing off your success and your wealth, right? That comes from your own insecurity. That's base. It comes from insecurity.
You want to prop yourself up,
right? It shows that you've got to be more than someone else. That's not where it's at. I mean, are we preaching here? I hope not. I don't mean to preach. What I want to hear, my purpose here is to improve myself and hopefully I can help others improve themselves, because this is the stuff that I want to do, and this is the stuff that Lao Tzu wrote, and I'm latching on to this stuff, man. I already have this stuff resonates with me, but I'm loving it, man. Awesome, right. Man. This is great. This is invigorating me. Awesome. Keep on, Tommy.
All right. By not displaying what is desirable, you will cause the people's hearts to remain undisturbed.
Sorry, read it again. I got distracted. I'm sorry.
By not displaying what is desirable, you will cause the people's hearts to remain undisturbed.
Okay, this is just continuation of what we're just saying. The same thing by
Yeah.
showing off your possessions and how well your successes for your own vanity and for your own insecurity. People don't have. They won't have no. They'll have no call for envy,
Covetous.
jealousy,
Yeah.
and to covet what you got, or feel bad about themselves because everybody's just doing their own thing. Everybody's. There's no need for this base competition.
And it's all that happens nowadays with social media.
No,
A
there's
lot
more
of it.
A lot of it. Yeah,
Lot of them.
absolutely. I look. I don't even look. I see that stuff. I look away from it.
Yeah,
So,
I don't want to see what you got. Good for you.
So
I'm proud. Yeah.
listen. I applaud other people's success, but when they're showing off possessions and possessiveness of these vain shit, I don't.
I may have done it once or twice.
Okay, continue, please.
Therefore, the sage's way of governing begins by, and there's 4 points.
Okay.
Emptying the heart of desires.
Yeah.
Filling the belly with food.
Belly food. Well, we need to take care of ourselves.
Yes. Weakening the ambitions.
Weakening the ambition.
Yeah.
That's really the Buddha stuff. I'm a very ambitious person. I think ambition is great. And the trick really is reconciling this in the modern world, or perhaps not even the modern world. Of course, that's where you are, so there's no point in splitting that hair. But where you want to do well, you want to achieve things, you want to build wealth. That's awesome.
You want to balance it, I believe.
There you go. That's the word.
Balance it.
Right? Don't let that be your obsession. Or do that so that you can do great things with those monies, charities and whatever.
Yeah.
So do altruistic things with it, as opposed to for your own vanity.
I encourage ambition as long as it's not in a sociopathic way.
Absolutely, yeah. Just not for vanity, but for and again, it's your prerogative. Who am I to tell you shit? But in terms of spirituality, as Lao Tzu has also written here, then we do well to listen to his words, because do whatever you want to do, but consider if not admonishments, the advice that we should be careful of our ambitions, right? Lest they
take us, of course, yeah.
Right.
Make us hurt others, what have you.
Right, it keeps us in this base part of ourselves, which is, self gluttonous, greed. Yeah. What are 7 deadly sins? You said fill your belly. I think fill your belly is great as long as you're not being gluttonous.
Right. Some of these we're gonna have to be like, I take a double look and I'm like, did he really just say that?
Yeah, and I know a lot of statues of the Buddha have them really fat. Now, I'm not down with that. I think it's kind of cool for a statue, and I'm really more and more I'm down with Buddha. But
yeah,
I'm down with people becoming fit and trim,
right,
and in shape and in good health. Not.
I love those statues of the Buddha when he's fit, looking all.
That's great, man.
What's funny though is that this is totally off topic, but you will see swastikas on Buddhas, and
but then that swastika, they're Indian runes. They're actually thousands of years old.
Right.
The Nazis adopted that.
Right. The Nazis took it and they inverted it.
They inverted it, right? But it's not. They didn't originate it. They stole it from the Indians, and they gave it a bad name, of course.
Right. It's a sign. That symbol means purity.
Yeah,
on
it's a good
deity.
It's a well-meaning symbol. The Nazis, of course, really tainted it, to say the least.
Leave it to them to screw shit up. And then the last part is, in this way he will cause the people to remain without knowledge and without desire.
Wait. The guru is emptying himself of ambition and
desire.
And of desire. He's filling his belly, and
right.
And now you're at the 4th point, right?
This is the point.
And by doing those 3 things, the guru is what?
He's good. I don't understand this. It says, in this way, he will cause the people to remain without knowledge and without desire.
He will
And
cause the people to remain without
yeah,
knowledge and desire. Well, that's just maybe it's caught, maybe something lost in translation. I mean, there's knowledge, like if you
yeah,
go into the Adam and Eve story from the Bible, like the downfall of humans was that Eve bit the they were bit the apple from the tree of knowledge, and that ruined everything for them. So that
right.
maybe there's bad knowledge, quote unquote.
And
Uh,
maybe the people had a different connotation in China in this era. You know what I mean? Like the kingdom, the people, the individual. Maybe they all had certain uh, values that we don't. That doesn't translate to us. Like you said, it's lost
Perhaps,
in translation.
perhaps. But let me tell you about, I used to be, when I was a child, I was such a fan of horror movies. I used to watch
Hmm.
all these horror movies. But I got nightmares from these horror movies, right? And then later on, that more as an adolescent, and older, I regretted watching them because they were like, I wouldn't say they were chronic nightmares, but they were, I'd be revisited by them, if you will.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I never saw that movie of the mummy, I wouldn't have the mummies chasing me around in my fucking nightmares. Right? So there's, there's bad knowledge, and then and also if you go down a certain road that you
Yeah.
regret, like, wait, I wish I didn't put this knowledge in my head for it to harm me or to
Right.
cause me stress or discomfort. Also, when you go down a certain road and do certain things or have certain things done to you, it really imprints upon you. It can really
Oh,
imprint upon you.
totally.
And where forgiving yourself becomes almost impossible. And that's the challenge. You have to forgive yourself. So when you get knowledge and things like that, those are the kind of knowledge that are to be avoided. Knowledge that you'd rather not have in your fucking head because doesn't serve you. It
Doesn't
serve
serve you, and it
It's
haunts you even.
detrimental, right? It
Yeah.
haunts you. Actually, perfect word. It haunts you. So
Yeah.
I can easily buy the words of Lao Tzu that easily. There's right knowledge and wrong knowledge,
Yeah.
and you're the one
Gotcha.
who decided. But if you're you're distressed by it, consider it wrong knowledge, and
Yeah.
lessen that, and go for the counter. Go for the antidote. Go on, please.
Remain without knowledge, without desire, and prevent the knowing ones from any ado. Ado means, what does that mean?
Continuance. Continuance.
Okay.
Without further ado. Okay, so
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
repeat that. I want you to repeat that last part.
Well, it's in this way he will cause the people to remain without knowledge and without desire, and prevent the knowing ones from any ado. Oh, in this way he will cause the people to remain without knowledge and without desire, and the knowing ones from any ado.
Right.
Huh.
So you're saying the knowing ones are the same sort of knowledge that he had admonished against or advised against. So to
Right.
advise, to disempower those people, right,
Uh-huh.
by teaching this stuff he's talked about, no desire, fill your belly, and what was the third one?
Yeah. Toughen your bones.
Toughen your bones. The people who preach the opposite, this quote unquote bad knowledge, they will have less traction. They'll be less successful.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And the gurus will be more successful.
And then the last part of it is practice non-ado, and everything will be in order.
Now, how is that ado spelled? Is it AD?
ADO.
So, okay, now say it again.
Practice non-ado, and everything will be in order.
Okay, so you're saying practice what he was talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that will create order. Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Sometimes I think we're going to be left like we were with the Zen passages. Huh?
But if we don't listen, first of all, Tommy and I are not experts at all.
Yes, I don't claim to be.
We're not even true Zen practitioners. We're two guys very interested in Zen, right? And Buddhism. We're not real Buddhists. We're fake Buddhists. We're actually Scientologists.
Yeah. You don't see my earth tone colors on in my beads today?
I'm joking, but we do. We're not experts. We're just two guys who have varying degrees of experience and knowledge, and we have a commonality, and we want to do this podcast for our own learning and to encourage discussion and learning of others. So let the seed be planted in ourselves and in you. Let it germinate. Let it cause us to want to learn more of the good knowledge, right? And not the bad knowledge.
Not the bad knowledge.
Great stuff, Tommy. Another successful podcast. Awesome, bro.
Definitely.
I love it.
I can't
man.
wait to do the next one.
Well, have some patience, all right? This one hasn't even been posted yet. All right, great stuff, man. Much love to you, bro. And
you too, bro.
I want to thank you guys for whoever's listening to this now in the year 2020 when it's fresh, or in 10 years from now in 2030, or 100 years from now in 3020, wherever you are in the world or out of the world, maybe on Mars. Maybe you're visiting Venus and you're listening to me now. And if you are, then take a spacewalk for me. Thanks, guys. Much love.
Thanks. Bye.
Next podcast.